also looking at increasing the awareness of women with respect to retinoblastoma, because I mean obviously the women, the mothers, are going to be possibly the first people to notice that something is wrong with the child with the leukocoria, and so by educating women on what they should be looking for, I mean anything that is odd, then perhaps pick up the retinoblastomas earlier in China than they're currently being picked up.
I didn't get it clearly. So
I missed this, sorry.
So I think what she's saying is that through women you could reach them and teach them about what to look for in their children's eyes that might allow for early diagnosis of retinoblastoma.
Yeah. Because I know in Asia that it is a particular problem that the retinoblastomas are presenting very late.
okay.
And if you were to educate the women, i.e. the mothers,
that's a good idea.
what to look for when they're breastfeeding their children and they notice perhaps that there is something wrong with their eyes,
Yeah.
that there's a white spot in their eyes.
Oh, that's a good idea. Actually, we didn't do that, but we did educate the mothers and parents about the disease of pediatric uveitis, something like that. Yeah, we should do that.
And I know also in Asia that sebaceous carcinoma is a lot more frequent than it is in Europe. And you know that it typically affects elderly women. And to educate them that they should go in as early as possible rather than becoming fungating mass where then the eye has to be removed.
Yeah.
So I guess there are two populations where you could address awareness of particular tumours. The mothers with the retinoblastoma and perhaps the more elderly women with the sebaceous carcinoma.
I think you raise a really important issue. Within our website, we try to keep an accumulated issues relative to women in eye disease and why the prevalence are there and what they can do. And there are a couple of issues that we're missing, and we need to monitor our website as a reservoir for these sorts of things. And those are several things that could be placed on our website as well.
I mean, I'd be more than happy to help, you know, coming up with just a couple of bits of information about, you know, pictures that you know, people could put on.
There's, while we're on that topic, maybe since we have a number of retina folk in the room, and the issue of tamoxifen, and it's being touted now for longer-term treatment in women, and the toxicity relative to the retina, I think it's not on our website, and we've been discussing putting something on the website about the tamoxifen toxicity. I'm wondering if other people in the room feel that's a reasonable thing to do. Is it well enough established that we can do that?
Yeah, I think it's, I think the incidence of tamoxifen toxicity in the 5-year regime that most people have been using to date is low, but it's cumulative. So now a new paper came out a couple of months ago recommending 10-year tamoxifen regimes for high-risk women at high risk for breast cancer, and the tamoxifen does accumulate. So it seems likely that it's going to increase, and I've talked to many people, and nobody that I know of who've been on tamoxifen have ever been suggested to see an ophthalmologist to be screened. So I think it's definitely worth putting that on there.
Maybe that's one thing that we could do relative to advisory board, is those 3 ideas that we've just already come up with as potential candidates for expansion on our website could be distributed to the advisory committee to take a look at.
Those are good points.
I have one little suggestion. It's a much smaller scale, but some of us are involved in vision screenings and health fairs and so on. So this is where, I mean, we just did one in Chicago where we did kids, but there was somebody doing glaucoma. But if we could, all of us, maybe communicate with medical schools and people who are doing these things, having even just some brochures about women's eye health, just to bring awareness. This is a population of potential patients who are less educated, less privileged, and don't need the most education. And so at these health fairs, because not everybody is computer savvy in that patient population, and so we can reach those people through those health fairs that different medical schools also have.
Well, we have a lot of the printed brochures, and we tried to do that a few years ago. And, you know, if we have some venues to distribute, we'd like to continue to do that, I think.
And I would point out that we have downloadable materials
Right, that's-
on the website for people to take to the fairs and things.
So I'm thinking we should raise awareness among the people who are doing those health fairs.
Related to that, when I was doing my MPH with Dr. Hartnett in 2009, I was doing a practicum on the knowledge of eye disease in a rural population. And I went into the health department for that county, and there was absolutely nothing related to eye health. So part of what I tried to do was to distribute the literature and stuff, and because I was working on the project at the time, I haven't really followed up with it since then, but I think that getting the health departments involved too, so that it's not just, Pregnancy Central, and there's actually other things that we can distribute to them would be beneficial.
I think that's a fabulous idea.
So I think you probably already distribute the stuff through the Lions, right?
I'm sorry?
The Lions? Because they do a lot of eye screening, and
Yeah.
they they have the materials?
They have the materials, and it's on, these downloadables were built through funding from them.
Yeah.
But I don't know how many, in monitoring our website, I don't know how much downloading is going on.
Not as much as we'd like. Definitely not as much as we like. With the new website, we'll be able to get the statistics on downloadables and who's downloading and where they're downloading from. The older website didn't support that, but we can see that the statistics have gone down. And I think that's in direct relation to awareness of the group in general and awareness of the website and the downloadable materials. So we certainly should be doing more outreach and communication that the materials are available.
With electronic signatures with your emails, at the end you can always add links to websites.
Mm-hmm.
So, the board could have at the bottom of their emails the link to that.
That's a great
And,
idea.
people may click on it and increase the hit rate.
That's wonderful. We get traffic from all over the world. We do know that the type of statistics that people are looking at mostly is dry eye. That's the #1 term that we come up for, and that's the information that's being looked at. We believe that's because it's a consumer type word that is searchable, that they understand. And as I said, it's worldwide. With the new website, as it says on your flyers, you'll also note that we are now translatable. So the website's now available in 55 different languages by simply selecting a menu. That's very powerful. That will help us with international outreach and to see when different regions are looking at different information. So there's certainly a great learning curve there for us to help drive the future direction of the communications.
I think the social media will help too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yes, Dr. Hayter had to leave, but we also launched a Facebook page this year. It's at Women's Eye Health Org, facebook.com Women's Eye Health Org. You certainly should take a look at it if you get a chance. We have 82 followers so far, so I do expect everybody to leave. Go onto Facebook and like this page, please. And we are getting some traction all over the world as well, so beefing up our communication channels is definitely going to help us in the future. What we could use help from the advisory board and the executive committee is helping to focus our efforts. What are the topics? What are the things we need to be talking about? And Sarah, you've raised some great issues today, as well as the tamoxifen issue. So at this point, there are other suggestions for us for our communications in the coming year. What type of topics would you like to see covered? Are we on track with what Dr. Copeland has said? I'd love to open it up for dialogue like that.
Beth, I'd like to help you with the patient education piece.
Great.
So.
I guess part of the things is that, and except that now we have a new website, and then how to make the public aware of the website and come to down and visit us, and how to reach the patient populations. And I think, and also I would encourage, if you have a patient or a colleague in or schools, and tell them about this website, and probably try to click different language, and
I don't have a
Oh,
live
okay.
internet
No,
connection,
okay.
but I do want to
Yeah.
point that out to everyone, that the select language feature is available up there in the upper right. And it literally translates the whole website. So as we add articles, for instance, on tamoxifen, that would become instantly available all over the world in the native languages. So that's pretty powerful.
Does it also increase the size? I know when you go on other websites, you can actually change the size of the,
Right
Text
here
size
in
is
the
up
upper
on the
left, and I
left.
know the slide's
okay, I
difficult
see
to
it,
see.
okay.
The text size is adjustable for those with low vision. I think that
That's
was
good.
a requirement for the Women's Eye
Right.
Health website.
Good.
We also have the member login. What we do is we plan on collecting information about people and distributing a newsletter in the future. I would also encourage you to go to the website and log on, establish your account. It's absolutely free. There isn't any information that's secured at this point that would be available to you by being a member, but it will help us to keep in touch and help us to clean up some of our records if you do so.
So in addition to simply being a member, do you intend to have member organizations? So for example, where I come from, the North Texas Eye Research Institute, one of the missions is community outreach. So I think this really fit into our mission very well. So can we become a charter member of
Absolutely.
this organization? So
We have chapters that have been established. We have 3.
okay.
We're always interested in establishing more chapters.
Right.
So I'd love to speak with you about
Yeah, so
that.
Dongfeng visited us 2-3 days ago, and then she talked to many of our researchers, and everybody expressed interest in helping. So, and all of us in the, well, not all of us, many of us in the Eye Research Institute in Fort Worth are certified to do screenings for school-age children, and we actually went out to do it. So I also like the idea to have flyers for the kids to bring home to their moms.
Well, their
So that
mothers
they
are
can-
bringing them usually.
Right, so then you can
mothers
also
and
teach them at the
grandmothers,
same
so you can
time,
get it
so
to them directly.
I think that would be a great opportunity to educate them.
yeah, no, that
I agree, that's an excellent point, excellent point. We have brochures in stock right now that we could send out. And of course, those will be updated over time and also, and they're also available on our website as well.
I would like to look at the downloadable material. If they are suitable, then we can just print them out ourselves.
That would be great.
And
I'm
then,
happy to send the link to
right.
that page for you.
Mhm.
Or anybody in the room who wants a personal walkthrough on the website or needs some help finding anything. Always happy to.
And if you need different language, they will translate.
Spanish is key in
Yes,
Texas.
it's, we
Yes.
definitely have it, yeah.
And
Chinese,
in
Spanish.
Utah,
Right.
Yes.
and in Utah.
That's the growing language. If you look at our Google statistics, the Spanish-speaking population
Sí.
is increasing. Sí, señor.
Gracias.
That's great. Other thoughts or ideas on the future direction of the organization? We are here to serve you, so we are always interested in hearing from you, whether today or if you want to have a conversation one-to-one, we're happy to set that up.
I just want to invite everybody to stop by the Women's Eye Health booth this year. It is in this building on the 4th floor. 1017 is the number of the booth, and we have a lot of the brochures that Beth has talked about, and a lot of the new information. So please stop by and see us. We're giving out coffee. Not Seattle's best, though.
We couldn't quite afford that.
I also want to mention, actually, Nina has to leave, because she has an appointment at 2:30.
But she actually mentioned that she's been talking with WHO, and then they have, WHO also have a division on eye health. And so she has connections with higher officers of WHO, and they're actually very interested in sponsor or collaborating with us in the future, sponsor our education, reach out in that disease. So we're really looking forward to, both from scientifically and the public education efforts in the future. So any suggestions and participation?
Can I just ask, does Women's Eye Health have any money to itself to sponsor research into women's eye health?
Right, so at the moment, no. Well, we have budgeted like to run conferences, to have our monthly meetings, and to sponsor some of the member travel to here. But we don't have the research funding. But that's one of the things we wanted to push forward into and say, and that's why we want to organize a SIG, and probably if we have enough awareness and participation from researchers in studying the gender differences, and maybe we'll form our own membership in societies, and then we'll track the fundings into the area as well. But not for now.
That's a good
Well, actually, when Eileen was initiating the WH, and she organized, we had this first international women's eye health conference in 2000, I think, right? Or
2 or 3, I can't remember.
And,
Well, that was rather interesting because it was only at that point in time that the meta-analysis had come out that 2/3 of blindness and vision impairment was in women. And that drove a PR campaign, and that was why we formed. We got a lot of press. We had this international congress. We raised money for this from pharmaceuticals, etc. And we haven't had one of those sorts of things for some time now. And perhaps the SIG next year would be something like that. Or we could mount a campaign to have a second Congress. But it did bring together a group of people who were really knowledgeable about women's eye health issues and helped us develop our program. But it seems to me that that early impetus, this surprise business about the 2/3, we now need to kind of augment that in some fashion, in terms of public advocacy, in terms of prevention, whatever we decide to do. And I think maybe that should be the subject of conversation.
I agree. Are there any data saying that there are particular eye diseases in women in particular age groups? So, I mean, is there something that we should be focusing on between the ages of 20 and 40 in women, and between the ages of 40 and 50 and 16 and beyond? Or?
Well, we talked about that in the past, of whether we should target a particular age group. In the developed world, the predominance is age-related, but there is the autoimmune group. In the developing world, in many instances, it's across the age ranges, so that you could target specific populations. But again, in the developing world, sometimes some of it's access. 2/3 of cataract is in women, but 2/3 of cataract surgery is in men. So there's access issues. That even occurs in the developed world, access issues, insurance issues, having access to care. So there are multiple issues here, and it's something that a concerted effort to try to target specifically what we can do. At the moment, we had at one point raised considerable funds from the Alliance International, and that helped us to develop our websites and get documents prepared and printed. We've since lost those kinds of funds, and the things that could be done really related to making a website, making the materials available. And unless we mount a major campaign for money, that's developing collaborations and distributing information via our website is about the level of funding that we have at this point.
One of the things that I think that we need to take into consideration, because I don't think many groups are, is internationally, many countries are having a problem with obesity. And with obesity, you have obesity-related diabetes. And with that, we're going to have significant vision loss in our youth that has not been addressed. I was curious about your statement before about,
I wanted to bring up something. What we're finding, I work with countries like Timor and some other developing countries, and what they're seeing is an inverse thing where you have countries that are too thin. In Timor, it's one of the thinnest countries, and you're seeing a rise of diabetes with great thinness.
okay.
And,
Is it type 1 or type 2?
type 2. And that's unusual. What we're just seeing, this is a population I just collected. We just ascertained. We work with the Fred Hollows Foundation.
But I think that there might be some money related to that, because as we start to talk about the lost potential, you know, okay, so disease, eye disease at the age of nobody cared because you'd already, you'd done what you were gonna do for society, so who cared if you stayed at home? But now, if we have 20 and 25 and 30-year-olds and 35-year-olds losing significant amounts of sight and no longer being able to contribute to society, to develop their potential and make a difference in the world, it affects your community, your state, your nation, your county, no matter how you want to geographically describe it, regardless of which country it's in. We can't afford around the world to decide that this large percentage of our population is suddenly disposable as youth.
Right.
And I think it would be really good for us to be part of the group that's trying to get ahead of this tsunami of vision loss, instead of waiting for it to be all over the front pages that, oh gee, now this is a problem. Well gee, we knew 20 years ago it was going to be a problem, let's get after it. And now that we're starting to really see that youth incidence, whether it's from obesity or skinniness,
Yeah.
the fact that we have to deal with the diabetes, the diabetic retinopathy in a young population, I think that it would be a potential for us to go to some of those other organizations and say, look, we need to address this.
And I think,
We're recognizing that it's a problem now.
Well,
And
you know,
I-
I'm sorry, one of the things that we discussed in times past is the fact that the same risk factors that cause eye disease cause a whole series of other diseases. And if one could develop a collaborative effort with the heart and lung folk, etc., because we all have common risk factors for eye disease, and add eye disease, even verbally, or written in the written word, to some of their materials, it would be a huge coup, in my opinion, because there's not a collaborative kind of sending the message. When we had this first international meeting on women's eye health, that was the defining statement, that the same risk factors that cause heart disease, stroke, diabetes, AMD, or not AMD, but those systemic type other diseases have eye sequelae. And they're the same risk factors.
Yeah, the overlapping pathophysiology.
There's an overlapping, and if we accomplished one thing, which is to reach out to those other organizations and get them to incorporate the eye component into their messaging, we would have done a huge effort.
Well, I think if we market it a certain way in the way we pitch it, and we can get a piece of the pie and say this, the way we market it, we might be able to get some of those funds.
And I would submit that for the patients, it's a whole lot scarier to a patient to be told that they're going to go blind than it is you're going to lose your foot. You know, you say, oh, well, if you don't modify some of your behavior, you're going to go blind. They're going to listen to you faster than, well, we might need to amputate your foot. You're never going to amputate my foot, But if you say you won't be able to see, it's such an emotional reaction
Right.
that you get their attention a whole lot faster. The providers that I know that include vision education in their obesity or diabetes education, they almost universally report that it's the vision piece that makes the patient say, okay, I'm gonna try and do this better, I don't wanna go blind from diabetic retinopathy. So,
We're talking lifestyle issues,
But and also too, including the nutrition and
Yep.
lifestyle.
heart disease, yeah, the lifestyle. That's why I think the thinness is coinciding with the diabetes. I think it's.
It's the malnutrition.
It's malnutrition.
Is there any evidence, like with anorexia and things like that with young girls, that they have this kind of problem?
I don't know, I mean.
I would guess nobody's ever looked.
Yeah,
I know the mortality rates in people with low BMI is higher than being like slightly overweight.
yeah. I know in places like Timor, it's just access to food in the monsoon season, and you can't get down the road to give them care. You're just going door to door.
Well, I think that wraps up the formal meeting. Thank you, everyone, for staying a little later and giving us your thoughts on future direction. This has been a stimulating meeting, and I would hope we'd see you in future meetings that we could call in. We meet monthly. We'll certainly email everyone about the meetings, and thank you, everyone.